We're here at the Podcar City 2019 conference with Alain Kornhauser. Alain, some might call you the godfather of podcars, but why don't you give us your impressions of what we heard today?
Well, it was nice to be here. We're still talking about trying to provide driverless mobility in one form or another to basically not only save our cities, but save the planet. Us providing our own mobility by buying cars and driving them by ourselves is just causing congestion and has enormous problems with respect to energy and pollution. And the only way to do better is to get us in a sharing mode. And it may be a sharing mode with driverless vehicles that operate on the streets that we've already built, or in some places actually building some new streets, call them elevated guideways, in which they then go over the existing streets. Whichever way we end up doing it, to provide mobility actually from where people are to where they want to go at the times that they want to go, and to try to share rides as much as possible so that it's not one person in each vehicle, but it's two or three, or rarely four, maybe even rarer five. But that's the kind of diffusion in time and space that we currently have as what we would like to move, and this is what these systems could provide. And we're here talking about those opportunities and how we can move forward.
The architect gave a very interesting presentation by looking backwards to move forward.
Right, and he was looking at the various mobility revolutions through time, including railroads and electric traction streetcars, and of course then decentralized communities dispersed, but each very vibrant, that Louis Mumford proposed late 1930s, 1940s, interrupted by the Second World War. But unfortunately, coming out of the Second World War, we had other economic initiatives which were built on building a car industry and suburbs, and those two fell hand in hand. And unfortunately, those communities weren't developed as sort of self-sustaining communities. They were basically extensions out of the center cities and caused enormous mobility problems in trying to get people to work in cities, which we still have the unfortunate remnants of now with respect to congested freeways that we have in most of our American cities, world cities today.
Well, it sounds like the opportunity is there, though, to kind of recreate maybe some of those small towns.
Yes, and communities. I mean, I'm all for smart communities. Some of these smart cities concepts that have people living in tall glass towers going, I guess, up and down elevators all day long. I mean, it's sort of not where I want to live. I think people want to live in communities. They don't necessarily want a half acre or an acre and be separated from their neighbors and just get in their cars to go anywhere. Living a little bit closer together, multi-family dwellings, just fine. It was one of the interesting facts that I hadn't heard, but that Minneapolis passed new regulation basically making all single-family residential areas multifamily, up to 3 families. So that if you have a single-family house, you can now make it into a triplex. And why not? Why not live? That's not really too dense. We can actually have neighbors that we can walk to and have dinner with and enjoy, and have our kids play with their kids and have it as a community, as opposed to having to have a car to go get a quart of milk each time we need a quart of milk. So moving back to a community level, having communities have the services, the places where you can go get your hair cut, and you can go to the doctors, and you can go to the library, and you can go see a Little League baseball game and all the other, and play golf and those kinds of things, but within a community. And then every once in a while, sort of once a month, you go down to the big city and do the big city thing.
Well, and he brought up David brought up the idea of performance-based zoning as opposed to command and control-based zoning, right?
Right, and looking at performance-based and having mobility that really enhances quality of life and enhances quality of life for everyone, not just those who can own or wish to own a car, but all the folks who maybe can't own a car or can't drive, or driving is a privilege, and you have to meet certain requirements. You have to be certain age. My goodness, why can't a 13-year-old have opportunities to go places without being chauffeured by their mothers or their fathers? Can you imagine how many family arguments would be reduced if all of a sudden kids had a certain amount of mobility and they didn't need to be picked up after lacrosse practice, and all that, and what the tensions that brings. Not that parents don't love picking up kids at lacrosse practice. I didn't mean to say that, but as well as the elderly. At some point you really shouldn't be driving. You should be chauffeured. Why not? You've earned it, and why not have it be really affordable? If you don't have to pay for a driver, a chauffeur, and you're only paying for the capital and operating costs of the vehicle, it's quite inexpensive. And so you could provide mobility, and you could provide that kind of mobility to people who are economically challenged, who can now go a little bit farther for a $15 an hour blue-collar job that really improves their quality of life, and even move it up to a $20 an hour job.
Well, and then the accessibility. As you get older, maybe you have to be in a wheelchair or something, and to have cars that adapt to that lifestyle, right?
Absolutely, and whether it's wheelchair or it's some other mental challenge or behavioral challenge or physical challenge with respect to vision or even hearing, of course, all those folks deserve to have mobility and deserve accessibility to all the various functions that improve their quality of life. And those don't just mean, hey, go downtown. It means maybe I need to go to the hairdresser and get my hair done, or my eyelashes fixed up, or get a little Botox.
But yeah, it's not that radial anymore. It's the point-to-point.
It's the point-to-point. It's the activity centers that enhance everyday quality of life for normal individuals.
So with that, I think it's time to get a beer. So Alan, appreciate your time.
Am I thirsty? I'm not driving, so...